You don't want to have a roster of Kupp, Adams, and Diggs.
Nope.
You know for sure one of them is going to age off your roster. If any of them get hurt, you've now lost a ton of equity. So cash out this year on the one where you can turn one of those guys into a younger receiver. You might take a little bit of a short-term hit, but man, if one of the other ones that you don't trade away kind of hits, bumps it up next year 10, 20%, you're a little more insulated now, because then they may be the one you can trade away next year, even at age 30. I mean, look at Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was dead. We were looking at a season with Tyrod Taylor as the starter. And all of a sudden, Justin Herbert comes in game 2, and he goes from a rookie unknown to a top 8 quarterback in Dynasty overnight. And now everyone wants Keenan Allen. You can get a first for Keenan Allen right now. He wasn't a top 40 receiver 2 years ago. So
with wide receivers, it's important to know production-wise. I don't know why there's this myth out there that I know the value dips after 29, really 28 at this point. 28 is the new 30. No, yeah, however that works. I don't know. But they can still produce it. Yeah, they can still produce at wide receiver 1 levels through age 32. If you do have Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs on your roster, you want to keep them and make a title run. That's fine. Just know that you have no outs. Well,
and here are the receivers over 29 in the top 30 in ADP. Here are their quarterbacks. You have Aaron Rodgers. You have Matthew Stafford. You have Josh Allen. You have Patrick Mahomes. You have Justin Herbert. Look at the quarterbacks, right? Like that. Yeah. They're not to say that those guys aren't good players, but they are riding elite, efficient quarterbacks. So if I have a receiver that is aging, but they are stuck with an elite, efficient quarterback, I will be more prone to ride that out. Yep. I think the poison pills are the ones if they change situations. If you put, Devontae Adams, now he goes to a much lesser quarterback. Mike Evans, if they end up getting a pedestrian quarterback, I think there's a chance they get a better one, but he's one of those ones that's over 28 that I'm a little worried if he goes somewhere without Tom Brady. Not because Evans isn't good, but because he's been riding efficient or really high volume seasons consistently. So I think that's where you have to look, look at the older guys, and then the ones I would be willing to kind of get out on without even worrying about the value are the ones that are tied to weaker, less efficient quarterbacks. So something to keep in mind.
So if let's say I'm a contender, should I give the 106 for Keenan Allen?
This class, yes, I would.
Nope.
See, look, and so I'm taking this as I'm not moving. I'm not trying to move anything afterwards, right? I'm just gonna head into next season with Keenan Allen.
You got it.
I'm fine with that, knowing that his value this time next year is probably the 207, give or take half a round. I'm okay with that. I can live with that.
We did a poll on Twitter. It was 12 team Superflex start 10, and that's typically what we go off of. And it was 104, the 2022 104 or Stephon Diggs, and Diggs won it pretty handedly. What do you think about that one? 104 or Diggs?
I will say Diggs, I think, is slightly more insulated, less risk than Keenan Allen for 2 reasons. One, he's almost 2 years younger. So Keenan Allen will be 30 before the season starts. So that's where it's like, okay, I'm willing to ride him out. But if there's anything negative about Keenan Allen, it's over. If he were to suffer a serious injury, it's over. That now it's at the point where he's a 31-year-old. I don't even want him anymore. I like the 104 for Diggs. I think I'm a little more worried about Keenan Allen than you guys, though.
So you take Diggs over the 104, you're saying?
I mean, obviously, I tried to get more with the 104, but if that's the best, if I say I want a receiver, you never really need a receiver, but if I want a receiver, right, and I send it for DJ Moore, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson, all those that I might prefer a little bit better for this insulation reason that we're talking about, and they all get declined, which I would probably expect most of those would get declined, then I'd be fine doing it for Diggs. I think the weird thing is with the 106, you can probably get a 23 first for the 106.
Yep.
And if I told you 23 first or Keenan Allen, Shane, I'm curious. Would you change your mind?
I don't know that I could get it. Yeah, I'd slam accept that. I'd rather have the 20.
You don't think you can get a 23 first for the 106?
I don't know, man. Not in the leagues we play in, and I don't mean that to be curt or dismissive of any other people's leagues, but anyone in the know of the class next year, the more I look at this rookie class, the more I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with back end first round picks, but if anyone offers me a 2023 first for,
and we've set that
a
bar like
lot
at
of
the
this
106,
draft,
107 in these videos, and
I'm moving it
I'm
up a
with you.
little
I think
bit.
it might even be higher. I think there's going to be
Yeah,
a point where like 104, 105, people just don't even want it. You know,
I
they'd
gotta
rather just trade
Yeah.
for a 110 and get the same
after
quality
Yeah,
after
but
player.
it's going to balance because the picks haven't, they're getting hammered, but at the same time they're still going to rise like a little bit, with the combine and the draft and all. It's gonna level, but is it going to level at 106 as
But
the
see,
tier
you should
drop
be
or
kind
what?
of agnostic to that, right? Using one of Scott's fancy words. I shouldn't be letting landing spot dictate that I'm going to move this guy up. That shouldn't make me comfortable. That shouldn't make me want to go, well, the 105 is better now because Isaiah Spiller is that's probably bad. Kenneth Walker was a second round draft pick in whatever this year's version of San Francisco is. You know what I mean? I shouldn't feel comfortable about drafting Kenneth Walker at 106. I should be frightened. And if I get to a point where I'm ever comfortable with it, I need to trade those picks immediately.
Yeah, you see,
In
I'm
last
talking
year's,
about being able to sell those picks. I don't really want to make any picks necessarily, but in terms of the values going up, I know other people will think those picks are cooler a little bit closer to the draft and
I,
all.
I
Again, it
think the only
depends on how
thing,
casual the league is.
yeah, I think your only thing you're risking is last year we identified a certain number of players where I think people would have picked them no matter what happened with them. Like people were going to be in on them as long as they got, this draft capital. We're talking like the quarterbacks, especially.
Yep.
This year, I think you're going to see some reactionary bias from people where we need like all the players that are buzzing after the Senior Bowl and the ones that buzz after the combine. You need them to also have the buzz for the landing spots after the draft capital. Otherwise, I think people are going to see this class at like, well, I can get a good player, but every player I'm going to get this year outside of the 103 has warts, and I don't really care that much if I get him or not. I'll take them, but I don't want to pay my 23 first, especially if I'm on the fringe. It could work out, Clay. There could be 5 or 6 really smashed players that all go good landing spots, good draft capital, and people want them. And there's a clear tier break at the 106 or 107. But it could be a clear tier break at like the 103. And we have an unprecedented level of 23 first for 22 picks, and it's like the 104. And you've never seen it that low before.
We'll definitely do more of a breakdown on the 2022 draft. Running backs. We haven't talked about running backs at all. Let's touch on them.
We all are know that their value is pretty much done immediately, right? Like they have 2 seasons, and then we're already looking to move from them because we were so scared of them. Production wise, they typically fall off after the age of 26. And then the ones that are still around produce at the age of 28. And then somehow the ones that are still around after that produce at like the age of 30. It skips every other year. I'm not sure why. It's hard to know which ones to pick from, right? And it looks like we're going to have a lot of choices to try to pick which 25-year-old, 26-year-old running back is the one you want to hold on to. Production-wise. Value-wise, they're done. They're done. Like if you don't trade a running back by 24, 25, their peak value is gone. Could sound wrong, but I bet you if you would traded CMC last year at this time, you get more than you would this year. And it's not just because he's coming off an injured year. Probably Derrick Henry too, but again, not just because he's coming off an injured year. It's because every year that they play past the age of 26, we go, well, this guy's borrowed time. Like he literally can explode on the field at any moment. And then I'm going to have absolutely nothing for him. It does give you an opportunity on the other side to go, all right, well, I guess I'll trade a random first for, I don't want to say Ezekiel Elliott because
Aaron Jones.
No, not even him because it looks like AJ Dillon's cutting into his timeshare way too much. But Dalvin Cook, like, if someone's just like, all right, I need to get out of Dalvin Cook for a random 2023 first. If you're a contender, that might be a move you want to go, well, yeah, I'll take Dalvin Cook. I don't care what happens. Because, again, roster construction, running backs are even better because you need less of them usually. You know what I mean? You cycle through so many off the waiver wire.
What about Nick Chubb? Same kind of thing. If you're not contending, just sell for any 23 first. And if you are contending, I'll buy Nick Chubb for a 23 first.
So I'll try to get more than just a 23 first. I'm going to try to get a player thrown in at least.
Yep.
And me being me, I'll try to get like the 111, 112 from this class, even though I hate this class. Or hate's a strong word. I dislike this class. But as far as buying, I'd give up a 23 first for him. Depending on what I think that 2023 first is going to look like.
So we'll switch it over to Scott here, but first, Chubb 103 or Nick Chubb, 12-team Superflex, start 10.
Pick. Easy.
Yeah, 103 is
easy.
Yeah, 103 still holds a lot of the cachet.
What about 106?
No, I'll take Chubb.
See if I can get the 23 first. The idea here is that I think I'm looking at this going, I can buy the same value production that Chubb gives me for cheaper, and I'm taking the same bet. Like Shane was talking about, if you look at the top 20 running backs, 7 of them are over age 26 going into this offseason. A lot of them are going to hit 27 during next season. So they're right in that range they're right in that fall off range. It's crazy that of those 7, that doesn't even include Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, and Joe Mixon. And all of those guys are, I think, extremely volatile on the market too. So if you just add those 3, that's literally 10 of the top 20 running backs. And I think all of those guys will hit 26 during this upcoming season or close to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Barkley's right on the fringe. He'll hit it at the end of the year. But that's half our running back landscape. So I think you can look at that sample size and you go, there's a lot of really good running backs from that range, like almost Hall of Fame level running backs. If they were to continue on and break that mold and play into their late 20s, early 30s, guys that can string together like a decade worth of production that we don't expect when we draft a running back. We don't expect that this guy's going to play till they're 30. The average is like one contract, and then they sign maybe an extension or they go to another spot, then they fade away. 5 to 6 years. And all these guys are already there. But I think you're going to look at a couple of these guys and go, wow, that guy's still playing at age 29. Like Joe Mixon still playing at age 28. I never would have bet he would have played that long. I could have got a deal on him the last 5 years, but he did, and he's still there because he's pretty good. Like, that's the type of bet you're making. But if you take all 10 of them, 5 of them aren't going to clear that. 5 of them are going to get hurt. They're going to lose something. They're going to fall out, and then they're going to be completely gone. We saw that with some guys like Todd Gurley. We saw that with like Le'Veon Bell. When he hit 29, it was over. 28, it was over, even if he got a second contract. But then it comes to assuming that you want to try to buy those guys on teams where you're contending for as cheap as possible, which is why I don't want to pay the 103. I don't want to pay a 2023 first. I'll take a lesser one for cheaper and know that I'm already betting against the odds with whoever it is. I'll bet on Zeke over betting on Dalvin Cook because the price is half of what it's going to cost to acquire him. And you might hear people say, well, Zeke looks terrible. Dalvin looks bad. It doesn't matter. I'm already betting on an outlier, so why pay anything close to market price? And on the contrary, if I have a team that's out of it, I'm selling for 23 first. Any of them. Kamara, Barkley, Cook. Now, I want to do what Shane said. Throw in another player that has something in his range of outcomes.
Yeah, like a Singletary.
Or a Leonard Fournette. Like, Leonard Fournette is one of those guys that's not in the top 20. But, like, you wouldn't be shocked if in 2 years he's still around and some of these guys aren't. Because he has the pedigree. He's had some injuries, but he's also bounced back. He hasn't really been injury prone the last couple of years. So, like, he's a perfect player to get thrown in because you don't know about his situation.
Yep.
Like, could you trade away Dalvin Cook for a 23 first and Leonard Fournette? There's a shot you have the better running back for 2 years. Not a high shot, but there's a shot I still have like an RB2 producer. And Dalvin Cook last year, look at his numbers last year. He was barely an RB1. So really, why wouldn't you do that deal from a process standpoint? Then it has me thinking forward, okay, I have all these 23 firsts that I've collected, right? And what happened? Why do I want the 23 first? Partially it's the quarterbacks. Partially it's the hype on the picks. But if I have to make the picks, I'm chasing probably the running backs in the class, right? Okay. So let's say I have a draft where I have 23 firsts and I draft 3 running backs. What is that conversation going to be after 2 months of me having those guys? Damn, can I get like 3 future firsts for one of them before they've even played? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I'm immediately going to be going. I know all of these are.
Drive them off the lot. Drive them off the lot.
Exactly. I know these guys are all volatile, and if I can cash out for multiple firsts before they've played a game, that's a good bet. Otherwise, you know, I'm going to have to build different roster constructions in 2024 and 2025, right? Because I'm going to have all these running backs, and
or you'll just have all these picks and no actual players because you'll just keep
getting
cashing out and just keep kicking the can, which is.
But doesn't that make sense to say, okay, I have 323 firsts. Maybe I pick 2 running backs, and then I pick the one that I like the most and build my team around that, and then cash out the other one for 2 firsts and a player. You know, if you have 2 or 3 guys that enter the league with JT or Barkley, that type of steam, you know what I mean? Like you're really doing it wrong if you just ride them out for another contract, because they're going to hit this point where, I mean, hell, we're already to the point where 4th-year running backs people are wanting out on. So it's just interesting how we're treating the running back market. But I think we're at a prime spot to buy back in now. You have a contender, buy the cheapest, buy the Aaron Joneses, buy the Ezekiel Elliott's, because you can get them for less than a first. You don't have to pay a 23 first. So if I'm sitting here going, okay, I can get this guy for a 112 in this class, or, you know, a 201 and a 206. I mean, you can get Zeke for prices like that. I'd much rather take that bet because the risk cost is a lot lower than giving up my 23 first.
All right. If you made it this far, thank you. Consider hitting that subscribe and that like if we earned your business. And definitely check out the channel and the playlist we have where you can look at the strategy shows, different positional players, yada, yada, and yada. Good night, boys. Enjoyed it.